Yo, what's going on guys, Jared here. Today we are going to be talking about Tenpai in regards to the NAWCQ. As you know, we've been talking about decks for the national season for America specifically, for what's going to be legal and what's going to be good, and going over all the best strategies that are going to be at the event. And the Tenpai is no exception. Obviously, it is extremely powerful, and it is getting new cards in Infinite Forbidden that you need to be aware of. So, very quickly, I just wanted to go over a very basic deck list, nothing too crazy, because it's not doing anything different. It is doing more of the same. It's just going to be doing it more consistently, more effectively, and if you're against it, definitely more scary. So, if you guys enjoy, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Okay, guys, so here is the current deck list that I have for Tenpai. There are 3 cards that are coming out in Infinite Forbidden that we need to discuss so that you know to look out for them in Infinite Forbidden for when Nationals rolls around or the NAWCQ. There's 2 main deck monsters and there is 1 trap card that I think is going to be a side deck card, but it could be mained and you need to make sure you are prepared for it. The first main deck monster is Genroku, which is if it's added to the hand, except by drawing it, you can special summon it as a tuner, then increase its level by 1. And then a quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Tenpai dragon monster from your deck, except itself, and then you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except dragon monsters. So, of course, in Konami's fashion, every deck gets a Poplar. Everyone is a Poplar now, so this is no exception. This is also great because it's a starter for Tenpai. It is just another card that can do 1,000,000 damage to you if you draw it. So, yeah, it's just really, really strong. And then this being able to tutor helps the other card that we got in the main deck, which is going to be Dora Draco, which is, again, a level 3 dragon fire, but keep in mind it's not a Tenpai, so you cannot, it doesn't have perfect synergy with everything, I should say. When it's normal summon, you can add a level 4 lower fire dragon from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dora Draco once per turn. Once per turn, you can estimate the top card of your deck, and if it's a fire dragon monster, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack for each Dora Draco you currently control. Otherwise, place the excavated card on the bottom of the deck. Second effect does not matter. It is like never going to come up or ever be relevant. I think that's only there just as be a reference for Poke Draco, but that's besides the point. The main thing is if it's normal summon, you can add a level 4 fire dragon from your deck to your hand. So you're able to immediately add Tenpai Dragon of Genroku effect, special summon itself. Then you're able to go to battle phase, use Genroku's effect, tribute itself out. You can summon something like Pydra effect to get something like Sengen Kaiman to summon out Chandra, and then Chandra attacked, and then it's just full combo. You have a full combo line there that I don't even have to go that deep into it. So yeah, that is it for the 2 main deck monsters. And then lastly, they also got a trap card. The trap card is something that I think could catch a lot of people off guard and is very punishing if you don't know about it. If you do know about it, I think it is definitely reasonable and fine. If you don't know about it, it is definitely scary as hell. During the main phase, if all monsters you control are fire dragon monsters, minimum 1, and your opponent controls more monsters than you do, end this main phase. So if you are trying to establish a board and you need to try to OTK your opponent, it is important to keep in mind that if you summon more monsters than they do, that they could be able to end your phase and make it so that you cannot OTK them, which then the turn obviously would pass back to them, and then they are able to OTK you like Tenpai Dragon is, wanting to do. So that is a very, very scary effect, and especially if you are not only just in main phase 1, is if you're in main phase 2, this just ends your turn. You could just end on nothing if you are not prepared for a card like this. So again, this is very important to keep this in mind, because if you don't, you could find yourself in a really bad situation versus Tenpai Dragon where you are just going to get OTK'd. And then the other effect of it is if 3 or more attacks have been declared this turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, draw 1 card, then you can special summon any number of Tenpai Dragon monsters from your hand. So you don't really need this. If your opponent attacked 3 times with Tenpais, anyway, you can banish it to summon Tenpais. The only thing I like about this card is that you can do it when your opponent is attacking you. So if this is in your graveyard and they're attacking you, I believe you are able to just summon Tenpais out of your hand, and then you're able to, be able to synchro during your opponent's battle phase. So I think that's kind of cool. But overall, I don't think that the second effect is too relevant. It's definitely just something to keep in mind, though, because again, realistically, right, they could Black Rose you in battle phase, and then they could end your main phase as well. And then you can only use each effect of it once per turn. So you can do both effects in the same turn. Keep that in mind. Again, it is very, very scary. So they can go like use the trap, end the phase, go to battle phase. In battle phase, they're able to immediately synchro for something like Black Rose Dragon, or if you attack them, they are able to use this in the graveyard to maybe summon a guy out and then Black Rose you, It's very, very scary. There's a lot of very scary stuff versus Tenpai, and you have to be very heads up about it, or else you could just find yourself on the receiving end of 37,000 damage. So for the very basic deck list that I have here, again, these deck lists are just more, think of them more as basic understanding deck lists, not the standard of what's happening, because we do not know the standard for the NAWCQ. Very important to know. So you need to understand how these decks fundamentally work, but you need to be prepared for tech choices or anything else that players are deciding to do last minute for the event, right? So if you have a basic understanding of how the cards work, that should give you enough of an edge to be able to push through these decks for the tournament. So going over the deck list very quickly, we have 2 copies of Genroku, 3 copies of Chundra, 1 copy of Fadra, 3 copies of Hydra, 2 copies of Draco, 3 copies of Kaimin, 3 copies of Sangan Summoning, 2 copies of Fenrir, 1 Raid Soth, 1 Terraforming, 1 Set Rotation, 3 Pot of Prosperity, 3 Shifter, 3 Ash, 3 Mourner, 3 Imperm, and 3 Droll. For the extra deck, we have 3 copies of Transcendent Dragon, 2 copies of Binant Dragon, 1 Trident Dragon, 1 Black Moon Rose Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Cobalt the Blade Dragon, 1 Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, 1 Samurai Destroyer, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Striker Dragon, 1 Unicorn, and 2 copies of Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. And if you look in the side deck, I pretty much have the other version of the deck that you can play. There are going to be versions that are not going to be playing hand traps, and they're going to be playing board breakers. I think that is something very important to keep in mind. So if your opponents make you go first and you don't find yourself getting hand trapped, they are more than likely going to have cards like Droplet, Talents, Thrust, Lightning Storm, Snatch Steal, Change of Heart, anything like that. You could just auto lose. And also again, you need to be wary if you make them go first. This could be in their deck, and then you are not able to, they could just skip your main phase. So again, keep it in mind, keep heads up so you don't fall into that trap. Bestial Magnuma is also in here because this deck can side Bestials really well. Magnuma being able to search any dragon is of course broken. So yeah. And then, of course, the main deck. I want to talk about some of these choices here. Raid Soth and Set Rotation being the main thing, because this card, specifically Sangan Summoning, is one of the most absurd field spells in the game, just because it makes all of your fire dragons unaffected during the main phase. That is a ridiculous card effect that should not be underestimated one bit. So I want this card in every single one of my hands possible to make everything unaffected. I want my opponent's Mourners, Imperms, Ashes, Veilers, all irrelevant on my monsters. That's all I want. I don't want nothing to worry about it. So if I am able to have this, that is perfect. I do not want anything to worry about. And playing Set Rotation with Raid Soth, if that helps me get a little bit better with it, I'm completely fine with making the sacrifice of playing Raid Soth and playing it, because Fenrir is a perfectly fine card. Fenrir plus Seal could definitely be a strong enough M board. You would be very surprised, Fenrir Seal hand traps, how many decks cannot break that. So yeah, this thing is very, very strong. As you can see, we're also playing Shifter and Droll. This is something I usually don't like doing, but in this deck specifically, you are just trying to get to the next turn. That's all you're trying to do. Once you get to the next turn, you don't care. So you're going to use whichever one is more impactful versus the deck you're facing. And then after that, you're just going to OTK them. That's all you're trying to do. So just something to keep in mind. I know I usually don't like it, but in this build, I am doing it just for that reason. And yeah, that is pretty much going to do it for this. I actually don't really have any combos for this because there's not really a reason. The Tenpai combos are all the same. You're just synchroing in the battle phase and just trying to OTK. There's not a distinct combo for Tenpai. It is just something to keep in mind. I guess one other interaction that is important to note, that if you search this card not only off of the Draco, you can also search this card off of Kaimin, you can also search this card off Sangan Summoning, and you can also add this card off Pot of Prosperity. All of them trigger this Tenpai Dragon's effect. So a Pot of Prosperity could be an extender of sorts if you're able to find this card. Something to keep in mind, maybe a little interaction that you might have not known about. But overall, that is going to do it for this deck. There's not really much to break down about Tenpai, but it is definitely a deck that you need to know. You need to know how they work, how to counter them, because this deck will punish you if you do not know any of them, and I cannot stress that out enough. I really, really cannot. And even in today's format, you see it. Tenpai can just bully people if they do not know how these cards work. So again, I hope you guys enjoy, study up, get some games and get some practice in before NAWCQ is around the corner. So please subscribe if you enjoy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.